Hello everyone, welcome to the Jenkins Infrastructure Weekly Team Meeting. Today we are 17 June 2025 and around the virtual table we have myself, Damien Duportal, Gerardi, Mark Waite and Stéphane Merle. The other might join later or not. Okay, let's get started with the announcements. Last week we successfully released Jenkins 2.5.14. That's the first Jenkins release built with JDK 21 and Maven 3.9.10. So congratulations and thanks for all the work you did to achieve that, team. That was really good. We haven't seen any downside right now. I'm not convinced that the Javadoc stuff is due to that. I'm still, I'm sure the CSS was already missing months ago, but that's something else. And this week, the release started on time 1 hour and a half ago, so nothing specific. That's all for the Jenkins weekly releases. Any question, clarification, things I could have missed? Okay, cool. On the other top-level announcement, Git.50 has been released. That one has the Windows long path issue fix in it. It's part of its changelog. So I guess we are going to release this one and deploy it. It's already on the Packer image master branch, so we need to trigger release and deploy it.
And
That should also, sorry, go ahead, Maya.
sorry, I've downloaded and installed it on my Windows computer and I'm using it now.
Cool.
So 2.50.0 is at least getting some Windows use, and I compiled and installed it on my Red Hat Linux 8, though we never had a long path problem on Linux machines.
Cool. So that means we can proceed. However, in order to deliver that Git to our official Jenkins agent version, we will first need to fix the Windows build failures. I've opened an issue that will be triaged today on that topic that follows up what Mark and Stefan mentioned and started to look at 1 week ago, if I'm not mistaken. The agents, the two agents, inbound and SSH, have the same failure that happened on the multi-branch image. So Stefan suggested that maybe there is a missing user change. So why did it change if that's the root cause? I guess the upstream image might have a change, so we need to check what could have changed in the past days. We didn't change anything. It started to fail suddenly a few days ago. On the Docker controller issue, we will have to look specifically because it's failing since 3 or 4 days. But the failure is not at the build, it's a test issue that looks specific to Windows agent and not to the Docker image in itself. So my guess is that it should be okay with the build of the Docker image for the Jenkins controller today, but let's watch it carefully. Worst case, it's one test to remove or one clean workspace instruction. So let's just watch it and decide based on that. We have a new contributor that proposed a pull request on the Puppet repository. The goal is updating the configuration for CI, cert, and trusted to use non-deprecated GNLP arguments. So thanks. I forget. I know only the user ID. Looks like his name is Jack. So thanks, Jack. I've asked them what will be the next step for testing before we deploy this, and we will have to see. But yeah, that should be something really nice. Finally, I was checking logs things on Kubernetes and I saw a lot of errors on Cert Manager. And I discovered that we don't own anymore the domain jenkinsistheway.io. I don't know since when, but since the past months, we are being spammed by Cert Manager logs saying, hey, you don't own the domain, I cannot renew the certificate. Jenkinsistheway.io was something created a long time ago, and now we use stories.jenkins.io. when we change domain, we, the infrastructure team, deploy the redirector service on Kubernetes that redirect requests to the stories Jenkins IO. So I've pushed a message. My guess is that we don't care anymore, so we shouldn't try. And if that's the case, we need to clean up elements in the infrastructure. Yes, Mark?
So this is a good one because I have an additional action item from the board um, that we also don't own Jenkins.io.
It's
Uh,
Tyler who owns it, right?
exactly. And okay, good. You knew who it is. That's a relief. That's very, very good. I like that. So the Linux Foundation and CDF as part of their rules for projects, and apparently this was a rule even when we became first members of CDF, must own the domain. So I have the action item to ask Tyler to transfer the Jenkins.io domain to the correct owners at Linux Foundation and CDF. Now, on this particular one, Jenkins is the way I would say we just leave it alone. I don't see any reason to spend the time or the energy. If we were to rebuy it, we would have to assign it to the Linux Foundation as well. And for me, I don't, given how long it's been that we haven't had that, or given the time, I don't think it's worth our effort to 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 worry about that domain. Now, it's probably worth a search through our source code to see if we've got any URLs that link to it still, and if we do, fix them because they should go to stories.
Action item for Jenkins.io, and that I guess that's the same on jenkins-ci.org. Item for domains which are owned by Tyler
Right,
to
right, exactly.
transfer it
To the
to.
Linux Foundation. And Tyler has been very generous every year or two. Whenever he needs to review, he just pays the fee himself, and that's very kind of him. But Linux Foundation is correct that really for the health of the project, we shouldn't have the top level domain owned by a contributor, right?
Yep.
It really should be the organization that owns it.
That for that action item, do you take it? Should I take it
Yes.
with Tyler? Okay.
No, I'll take that. That's mine. Tyler and I have had interactions already on this. Every few years, I send him an email in December reminding, or in November reminding him that the domain
The renew.
registration is expiring. He says, "Mark, relax. I'll look at it when it gets closer," and then he renews it promptly. So yeah, I'll work with Tyler.
Cool. So add the portal to create issue for decommission because that means removing things from the infrastructure for us.
Right, and that makes and I agree that if we're requesting certificates for Jenkins is the way.io, that needs to change, right? That
Yep.
we're not going to get them. It's not our domain.
Okay, that's all for me on the announcement. Do you have other announcements, things to cover on top level?
No.
Okay, so let's have a look at the upcoming calendar. Next week, the 24th June, which will be a Tuesday, as usual, we will have a weekly release that should be 2.516, if I'm correct. Next LTS, I saw a changelog with one item, so I guess we are going to have an LTS.3, so 2.4504.3, and it is expected to be released next Wednesday, so that should be 25 June. And Philip
that
Glanz is the release lead, right?
that is correct. All those things are correct.
Cool. So next week we should expect LTS updates.
Yes.
We don't have any planned or publicly announced security release.
So and on the LTS, I will be out of office
Mhm.
attending Open Source Summit North America during that week. So uh, not that I'm critical to LTS releases, but just be aware.
I don't remember, Stefan, next week. Is it a day where you can have some times or not? No, LTS is always when you have the kiddos, right? Okay. It's not a problem at all again. I can take care of it. Jay, I would want to let you take care of it, but you don't have your Jenkins machine yet. However, trust me, that will come soon. Now, on the upcoming credential expiration, we have a bunch of things that expire in July, the 6th of July. All of them are Azure Service Principal that are used for jobs on Infra CI or Trusted CI. So we have listed them, we have issues to create, but no emergency. Most probably we will do them a few days before. Just a note, we had a review with Stefan earlier today, and after that, that made me thought we had two areas where we can move to workload identities. So that means credential-less Azure Service Principal. We have two that are easy because they are used on a controller, Trusted CI, only for one purpose, to deploy the website in production. Trusted CI is a private and highly secured controller, which is not expected to be multi-tenant. We just have a few person who can run pipelines or access it, which means that's the first good thing to say, okay, there are no risk to remove the credential and use identity workload instead. That means we don't have to renew the credential every 3 months. And instead, we will associate an identity to the agent on where the deployment happened. These agents happen to be virtual machine on Azure, and we already are using a virtual machine with workload identity for the certificate and creating this agent from the controller. So we can update the controller setup, add the identity, and be done with it. So that one is a good candidate. I will open an issue for that, most probably when we will start to care about this credential. Another good candidate is the GeoIP use case. GeoIP is a database that we update on MirrorBits. And Stefan built a routine inside the public AKS cluster where regularly Kubernetes spins up a container that will take care of updating, if needed, the geolocation database that we use on MirrorBits. That thing need to write on an Azure file storage, which is shared between all MirrorBits instances. So in order to write, you need a credential, and that credential is used by AZ on the command line. Here, we can use what is called workload identity at the pod level. We can say the pod doesn't have a credential, and when the pod is running, it's identified by Azure. Again, it's a good use case because it's not multi-tenant. Either you can access the pod or not. If you can access the pod, you are an administrator. And that's based on the Kubernetes service account associated to the pod. There is only one, only for that job routine.
Yeah,
So again, we have
that's
a
a
good
Kubernetes
candidate.
cron job. That's
Yes.
not even going through
So
Jenkins.
that's a pod. Cron job is like deployment that's an higher level, higher abstraction object. But in the end, it creates a pod with a service account.
What I mean is that's not going through any plugins for Jenkins.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah. The Jenkins Azure credential plugin do not support workload identity. They support virtual machine level workload identity, but not pod level workload identity. I've pinged the team 1 or 2 weeks ago, but yeah, it need to be implemented. That's all. But that one is not using any Jenkins things, so that is expected to work. Regarding the two others, the credential used to deploy docs Jenkins IO from Infra CI and the update CLI credential, we cannot use credential-less because Infra CI is not multi-tenant, at least not today. That's all for the credential. So my proposal is we don't schedule anything for the upcoming 10 days. Is that okay for everyone? Cool. Okay, so unless someone object, I'm moving to the cloud budgets. As your CDF account is is on the marks. We have started to create resources, and you can tell that adds a bit of cost on the forecast because Stefan started to work on moving resources here. I've also corrected, since we received all the invoices, I've corrected the amount from last week. There were 300 and a few bits missing. We had a bunch of invoices due to Azure issues. So I've checked with the CDF and gave to Michel and Shah all the details of all the invoices because some were charged on me, some on Linux Foundation, some on both. That was a bit of a mess. We shouldn't have that problem, but now we know that we are around 3.5, the grand total, including support, etc. Reminder that we are expected to have an average of 4.5 maximum per month, extended to the whole year. We are clearly below for now. Now we are moving things, so this might increase for July and August until we optimize things. On the other Azure subscription, the one with the credits, so we now have 10K credits expiring end of August. We have consumed this month of 5.6K. The forecast is at 10K. So we saw decrease thanks to the BOM line removed. We now only have 2 lines instead of 3. That will be good for AWS. We should, with the current usage, if we don't touch anything and move CI Jenkins IO, we should have 5K remaining to consume in July and August. We can also move the migration to Amazon from 1 to 2 weeks, the first week of July, eventually middle July. We'll see.
Okay, that was going to be my question. If we were to use 2 more weeks of Azure to reduce the amount of available funds, does that cause us serious harm elsewhere? Because that gives us 2 more weeks that we're using cloud-sponsored funding.
No, I will suggest not waiting to have no more credits because we have other workloads to migrate, so we need a still amount of money so we can
Okay.
spread.
Got it. Okay, so it's reaching 0 by 31 August is too aggressive, I think is what you're saying, or we've got other things we're spending on that we'll keep spending until 31 August when the money disappears.
Exactly, particularly the Redis instance used by Mirrorbits. That one is critical. We have other less criticals, such as the Infra CI agents or the Packer builds. The Packer builds should be the last remaining here, because if Packer fails, okay, that's annoying, but that's not a blocker for the platform. If Mirrorbits fails, that's another kind of problem.
Right.
So most probably that will be the end of the first week of July. We'll see week by week or day by day.
Okay.
Any question on Azure?
Mm.
Okay, next one. DigitalOcean, we are inside the usual consumption. A slight increase, not that much, because Archive Jenkins IO is still used as fallback, but yeah, that's okay. We should start after moving everything out of Azure sponsorship and decommissioning this one. The next big step will be to move things outside of CloudBees AWS account to DigitalOcean. So better to have credits here. I might increase this while working with Andrew Bayer on the stats part because we need a machine with PostgreSQL and enough disk. I wonder if it's not if I should not merge that with migrating usage Jenkins IO out of CloudBees to DigitalOcean. So that will mean creating a new machine with a way bigger disk because we have the logs since years and years, and we also need the data for the PostgreSQL database. Having the database close to the gzipped logged means the exchange loading data and then the exports can be done on the same location instead of sending them across clouds or networks. And then we should get some dumps. So I guess, yeah, 2 terabyte data disk is not something expensive. So better to have something on one place and start the migration. And the AWS CloudBees, we have the same amount of consumption. So yeah, again, nothing here exceptional or to say. And we have started to consume data on the AWS sponsored account, in where we, as a reminder, we have 60K credits given additionally to the 34K we already had in the reserve. So that one should be okay until summer 2026. We are going to move CI Jenkins IO, and we are already started as the metrics tells us. So we will carefully follow this in the upcoming weeks as soon as the migration is done, most probably in July. Finally, on JFrog, same, everything is stable, but the bandwidth is on track. It maps to what we see on the 2 previous months, and the storage hasn't changed since weeks.
Okay, so I'm surprised at that because we've been capturing logs. I'm surprised that storage has not increased because we've been capturing logs for a week or more, but they didn't increase. They didn't declare that we've started using a lot more storage.
Yes, I guess. I mean, the logs are stored gzipped as per their in messages.
Okay.
So if you have 10 gigabyte of logs, so that should change only the 134 to 35.
Oh,
10
oh,
gigabyte of gzip log is already a lot. Like it will be months of logs.
okay, all right. Thank you. So because we still want Basel to do the analysis of the bandwidth use, I was just worried that hey, if we don't have evidence that we're getting the logs, will he have data to analyze? But you said hey, Darren's reported that there is increasing space use, but in the world of terabytes, it's only gigabytes, so it's
Yes,
3 orders of magnitude smaller. Got it. Thank you.
exactly. Or the storage of the logs is not accounted for in the storage reported on the MyJFrog portal. That could also be something realistic.
Right.
I have IDOPS that they provide disk export. I think they only do what Artifactory reports on the amount of data in Artifactory itself, and Artifactory might not account for the additional data volume where it stores or exports the logs.
Okay, so we may not be being charged or credited or um, conceptually billed for our use of log storage. And
Exactly.
we don't intend to use it long term, so no problem there either. Great. Okay.
Yeah. So the answer is I don't know, and I haven't followed up since Darren took the action item. But yeah, I'm reporting that we don't see change, so that's a good. These are good news.
Great.
And on the bandwidth, yes, JFrog said we passed during the weekend the threshold of the 10 terabyte of outbound bandwidth,
Yes.
and
Which
that's expected.
that we're consistent. We may not be
Exactly.
happy about our consistency, but we're consistent.
So that's all for the cloud
We
credits.
got users, that's all.
Exactly. Any question? Cool. Okay, so let's have a look at the tasks. We were able to finish a few tasks last week. Jay, can you report for the build cache on the ATH Docker image?
Yeah, so Basil needed the cache from the ATH pipeline to be exported on Docker Hub. So we extended the feature of build Docker images and build and publish Docker images to also include a cache to parameter in the pipeline call. So yeah, that it was tested and it's working as intended. So yeah, it was successful. So we closed the issue.
So just a note that cache 2 by default caches things its name inline. That's the default. So that means on the local Docker engine, but we use ephemeral machines. So the next machine doesn't have the cache. The use case here that Jay helped Basil use is that the image for ATH exports the build cache along with the final image with two different names because they don't have the same behavior, the same pattern. And the cache is on the registry on Docker Hub. So now the next build of the image can download the cache layer from the Docker Hub and rebuild the image. These cache layers are really efficient because because Basil took care and Tim took care on correctly shaping. Note that the cache2 and the associated cache from image can also export to Amazon S3 buckets, to GitHub Action Cache, or to other file system location if need be. But overall, the best performances are writing to a remote registry. That's way faster than writing to a local file system, because the time to export from buildings to local file system is really slow. Stefan can tell because we spend a lot of time when our Docker image build is built on buildix and then export the image for testing purpose. That is really slow. Thank Jay. Any question? So looks like Basil was quite happy with the pattern it's unlocked on the ATH usage. So great work, Jay. Thanks. Stefan, on the GDK25, you were able to quickly fix
No,
that
not
issue.
fixed, but just gave a turnaround. We decided to use the API of Timirin with update CLI, not only to track the release and the URL for the download, but also for the checksum. And with the brand new early available version of GDK 25, which is 25-27, and the API kind of crash and return an error for the oh, just say the name and forgot it in the way. The checksum. So it's reply with two entries, which is not planned, and the API is failing. So we don't have the checksum, and there's an error. So I open an issue in the API of Timirin. I don't know if they will manage something. And for the time being, I just removed the tracking of GDK 25. I was thinking during my lunch break, Damien, maybe we should have a look on the signature way of working and using the other one to download and check.
You need a checksum for that, in any case.
Whatsoever I need to check. So
Yep.
yeah, we're doomed.
It's a three-step process for any tools, not only Temurin. The signature holds the cryptographic public key that you need the GPG key of the provider to use, and you combine them so that the signature is a map that say that public key correspond to the private key that encrypted the signature, and the signature then holds the mapping to the checksum, which in turn are a mapping to the data. Because if the checksum has been cryptographically signed, you don't care about encoding the checksum. The checksum is good enough. It's an SHA, you don't have collision. So if the SHA has been verified, you don't care about the rest. And that's always the same pattern. You need the PGP key once, you need the signature for each binary, the checksum for each binary, and the binary itself.
Okay, so I hope they will fix it.
That's an EA process. That's in the name. At least we have one EA GDK25 available, and now you can continue the rest of the GDK25 by providing tools installer with the same technique.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any question? Okay. We have a user who try to create an account. Spoiler alert, they didn't use the same username when trying to log in and when creating the account. So of course that doesn't work. They should be autonomous to fix their problem now. We pointed them to that mistake. I haven't seen any answer yet. We had an issue with Servana mirror that has been fixed. So thanks Olivier Lamy and Mark for taking care of raising and confirming the issue. That impacted all of our Australian users during a few days because Servana was serving 403 errors or 404. Our mirror bit system quickly detected after, I think after 6 or 7 hours, the automatic system did remove Servana for some files, but out of abundance of caution, we removed Servana for a view day until they fixed the issue. That was a good opportunity to get the contact information from them because they never answered on the previous thing. So they did a good job at uh, moving to archive Jenkins IO as the source of truth instead of OSUSL, giving us public and private contact. The private contact is on the private runbook. The public contact is on the MirrorBit, which is public. They also fixed a lot of things and helped us review the documentation for Mirror Administrator. So thanks to them, and now Servana is back to business. Note that the Australian user were moved to the three other mirrors that we have, including OSS Planet between Taiwan, Singapore, and the third one. So the difference with Servana was not that much in terms of latency, which are good news because 2 years ago, we had issue covering Asia and Oceania. Now we have 6 mirrors that are fully working. That's really cool. Any question on this one? Note that only the user with curl and the wget were concerned by that problem, because in fact, Servana was considering as spam the user agent from curl and wget, while
Oh,
web browser were working.
that was what it was. It was not. Oh boy. Oh,
That's
that's an
why
interesting,
Olivier had the issue, but you weren't able to reproduce with the web browser.
very novel. I wouldn't have even thought of trying that. Okay, thank you.
And finally, thanks Binek for pointing us to there were a missing permission on CI Jenkins IO on the GitHub application that he cooked while helping us contributing on some of the incremental publisher and other application that we don't update a lot. So that has been fixed, and he did the analysis. So many thanks for this. That was really quick to fix. Now on the platform, let's say usual maintenance. Thanks, Stefan, for the huge help and the huge work on rotating the credentials, including the Terraform backends. We can confirm that now I'm not the only one able to rotate the Cloudflare credential, mainly for the update center.
Yes, I can break everything now. Cool.
We are two, yes, double breakage. We also were able to write and provide the documentation for mirror maintainers on Jenkins.io website. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, others for the help. Now we have that page that is the source of truth that we should use and give to mirror sponsor all the time. On the platform up to date, so I guess I don't think we need to give more details. We have JDK 21 by default everywhere, runtime and build time, and Maven 3.9.10 is used everywhere by default. Proof, we had the Jenkins weekly release with this. That's all on the work that we're able to completely finish. Are there any questions or things I could have missed on that part?
I guess a question, did we check the bits, the binaries from the 2.514 release to see that the manifest said what it was supposed to say? If not, I think I'm going to go ahead and go check it. I just want to see, because that's the first time we built with Java 21, but we were targeting Java 17, right? So
Exactly.
it's right. Okay, so I'm going to go look at it just for my own safety check.
Yep, I don't know how to check these bits or metadata.
Yeah, and that's something I'm comfortable with. So let me do that just to take a look at it. I do that a lot actually. Is let's go poking around inside and see things. So
You
let
see
me take
why he is the boss? See?
No, he's that's not why. But
I
okay.
was also assuming that no one complained aloud on the usual core maintainers,
Right.
which they did last time we changed. So Stefan, you asked the question 1 month in advance. No one answered. We send reminders. So maybe someone will be angry in 1 or 2 weeks, but right now it's
Right.
working.
Well, and we've given ourselves plenty of time before other releases, right? Okay, we've got an LTS release that will come out next week. We will have a second weekly that checks it that we're okay before we do that LTS. Good.
And as underlined by Basil and Jesse, I think it was January this year, Last time we moved from JDK 11 to 17, we hesitated on using JDK 21 directly from 11 for Jenkins core.
Right.
However, they correctly stated when we had to make the move, that was better to use the same version as CI Jenkins IO core builds, which back in time were only 11 and 17. Now it's been 6 months that JDK 21 on Linux is the default on CI Jenkins IO. So that was just a matter of moving the CD part at the same version than CI.
Great.
We've been a bit aggressive on the Maven 3.9.10. We should have done CI first and then the weekly release, but we had issue with the 3.9.9 version. That's something we haven't fixed yet, by the way. I forgot about it and closed the issue, but Mark, do you remember we wanted to be a first-class citizen with the Maven downloads, and we decided to stop using archive Apache maven.org for download and use download mirrors instead. Problem is that their download mirror architecture for Maven only points to the latest available release. So that failed all of our builds for Packer image.
Right, because archive things aren't available through their, I see. Yeah, okay.
So still not sure because it doesn't happen often. We have Docker images that are built, it's like Docker packaging, it's using archives. So for Packer image, maybe we could have a fallback system to archive if it fails with a 404 eventually. That could be a technique. So we keep using by default their download mirror, and we switch to archive and we hit the archive system only when we need it.
Makes sense.
But that's all for this part. Any other question? Okay, now work in progress. Our top level priorities. We are moving things away from the CDF subscription. We have 2 top level topics. No blockers. Stefan, can you confirm on the Infra CI container agent migration from subscription, the sponsored subscription to CDF subscription?
Yeah, no blockers. I'm right now playing with the zones and the way we build the Terraform, but yes, no blockers. All the network seems to be done if I have not mistaking something, which we will see when we create the cluster.
So reminder, we still don't know if in long term we will keep that cluster. We created that cluster to separate correctly Infra CI agent that can run pipeline from untrusted sources from the cluster that hosts Infra and release CI controllers. We did that because we had money, basically. Hosting a distinct Kubernetes cluster has a cost. But the discussion we had with Stefan 2 weeks ago is that, okay, now we move things back, we evaluate the cost, and then we see. One of the ideas, if we need to merge or to decrease the costs, that will be not using Kubernetes to run Jenkins controller. Run them on machine like we do for CI, cert, or trusted. And keep having Kubernetes agents for infra CI only. Release CI can totally move to virtual machine-based workload. That doesn't change a lot because we spin up something that runs for 3 hours and then stops. So Kubernetes agent doesn't add any specific value here, particularly with the Windows packaging that takes 20 time to spin up. So if we need to optimize the cost, that will be the direction. Right now, we move, but as Stefan suggested, we immediately start with spot agents for virtual machine to immediately have the lower cost than what we used to have on the sponsored subscription. And on my side, same status on AWS. No blockers. Virtual net is done. We have S3 controller VM and endpoints done and working. So what I call the endpoints are the internal private links to download data from Amazon S3, which can cost a lot. And also we were able to make work the internal Docker image registry for caching. So that one is also using endpoints. So at least the Kubernetes agents which we can control the image name can use the internal caching. We will keep using by default Docker builds like for the Docker agent on CI Jenkins IO, but that will decrease the data bound. So now I need to work on the cluster, like Stefan is doing on the other one. These are the two top level priority. The rest is less important, unless someone objects. Okay, so we keep working on this. Jay, on your side, can you give us a quick status about the private instance monitoring? Blockers, non-blockers, status.
Yeah, so the current status was the backend logic of scraping the data from the controllers was done using a shell script. Uh, so currently unit tests are being made for the shared pipeline library. And yeah, once the unit test is done, we can begin to test the pipeline library on a job.
Good. And so can you confirm that you are beside the unit tests that you can work on, you are blocked now because we need the new private report web service in which you can export.
Yeah, so we decided that reports.jenkins.io isn't a suitable place to export our reports. So we'll need to create a new web service where we can export our job status reports.
Every job on Infra, CI, or other controllers. So yep, Jay cooked and did the analysis properly that A, we cannot publish reports on every jobs. Otherwise, we would have to move the job level credential to top level credential. And that is an issue. We don't want someone to change the repository permission updates reports. That's not a problem to have the data of the report publicly available in read-only, but being able to write this is sensitive from us. As such, the proposal to have another service, again, publicly available, but everyone can write on it. Worst case, we can change a build status report. That's not a problem. And we physically separate them. That's all. Any question on this topic? So I've updated the definition. Now there is a bit of Kubernetes work on the public K8s cluster to create the service and a bit of Terraform. So we are going to work on this on the upcoming 2 days so we can unblock J. That should be done soon. I've added a first draft of the resources we need, storage, etc. On the topic of platform sane and maintainable, on the OSU, OSL, and mirrors part. So we have two of the Indian mirrors maintainers that said, hey, we suddenly see a peak of storage because yes, archives has 600 gigabytes of data almost. We gave them pointers because there were confusion in the usage of AirSync. One thing is that in order to help them and help all the other not to see big increase, we are going to slightly change the script that we use to populate OSU OSL with the data every 30 minutes on every release. That one will add a new text file that will be the list of the AirSync include list with plus for the file or pattern that need to be included and minus for the one that need to be excluded. So once this file is publicly available, they can use it directly to have only 1 year of files on their mirrors. Interesting data points, 1 year of files, at least the past year, it's around 40 gigabytes of data only. And I did data point for the past 16 years old on PKG. we have 40 to 50 gigabyte of data per year. That's all. So yep, that should help them to not waste too much disk space for us, and that should make the entry barrier easier because that's less than 50 gigabyte. Way more people can help us on that array. And so the next step, but that will be delayed after the Amazon migration, we will need to change the technique we use to copy data. Today, from PKG, we copy to OSUSL, and then we tell archive to get data from OSUSL. Now, we don't want the OSUSL data to be synchronous. That means every plugin release, every core release will just copy data to archive, and that's all. That will stop now. Update Center, Jenkins core release. And then asynchronously, we will have archives that will copy 1 year of data to OSUSL, removing that burden out of PKG machine that should not be responsible for this. But that one is delayed to after AWS. I have done half of the work on the local Puppet thing, and I stopped when I had to start looking at the credential because we need to move the SSH credential and authorization IP from PKG to archive. And I stopped at that moment and focused on Amazon. Any question on these two topics? Okay. Next one, work in progress on the Datadog log collection audit. That involves a set of minor tasks, changing Helm chart so we can provide a custom annotation and check in Datadog that we have logs from pods. The goal is mainly tagging properly the log so we can search by service name. That way easier than searching a big amount of data. That involved a few Helm chart contribution, but that one is easy and quick. That's why I cooked the cert manager Jenkins is the way thing. Good news, we might have less work than what we expected on this one because we will remove at least the Jenkins is the way. So yeah, not a bad outcome. Git repository, work in progress by Darin. I guess he started to clean the cache of this one, as far as I remember, or is it still in staging, meaning not deleting data and checking the right pattern to mirror? I don't remember.
Yeah, and I don't remember either, but it's easy to check. You go ahead and I'll, oh yeah, oh, this is great. So scroll to the, I think it's his comments were at the very bottom of the page.
Mhm.
Yeah, so added to the exclusions. And I think I had to ask him for something that he had to adjust a
Mhm.
little because of a JGit dependency that was needed, and he
Okay.
adjusted it.
Don't hesitate to really use that
Oh
issue
yeah, there
for
it is.
exchanging
It
as much as possible.
right, and it's there. I see it. It was a plugin bomb release failure. He fixed it,
Okay.
and it's all commented there. It's in
Okay,
the
cool.
last
So
minute
that's the one.
comments.
I thought there were a new one, that's why.
No, no, no.
Okay,
This
cool.
was old information, and he handled it.
Cool. So I guess we can continue. That
Right.
there are no emergency. If we have to wait end
Correct.
of July, the amount of data is not that much. It's just, let's say,
Yeah, for me, I was impressed that he bothered to clean it up at all. It's 200 gigabytes is, yes, it's something, but in the big picture, that's a tiny amount.
the outcome is not on the storage. The outcome
Oh,
is on what the GenSec team can know about the transitive dependency and external dependency that we use to build. The less dependency we have, the better it is. And
oh, okay.
the risk is that someone will start using something proxied by Jigit while they shouldn't. We only need what is strictly required as much as possible. So
Got it.
it's a more shaving yak and sanity.
Yeah, yeah. Care, using great care, which is good. We like security people to be careful. That's very good.
I like the shaving
Yak.
analogy. Yeah.
You need to look at the meaning of that adage. You will have a funny moment. On the stats Jenkins IO, I was able to meet with Andrew. Andrew say hello to the usual people. He was that close to go in Brussels last week. He had a Paris meeting for Datadog, and he said, "Oh, it's just 1 hour by train. I might go and say hello." But in the end, he was too tired, and yeah, he didn't go in Europe in the end, but he was that really close. So he showed me how to use the things. I've started reporting on the issue really quickly. So the big picture is that we need a PostgreSQL database. He gave us the dump 1 month ago. And the idea is that we have two processes. One process that Stefan and I will build in the infra that will run weekly or eventually daily. That process will read the latest log on usage and load them on the database using one Golang command line. The code of the Golang command line works. Tim and I have started to work on it. Still improvement can be done, but we build that command, we run it with the directory, and it will load all the data in a certain form on the database. That thing should be done once a week at least. And we have that database that contains another representation of the data. That part can be done. We have many techniques. We'll have to specify, but that one is the first step, and I need to run it once to be sure everything is up to date. So what we did is that Andrew ran the same process from the same dump on his machine, and everything worked. So now I should be able to do the same on the infra. But I need a new machine for that. Hence my remark about usage. I will start with a machine and we'll see how we can go forward. Yes, Mark?
So did Andrew's run of and I may have just missed it, but did Andrew's run of the report actually update the public sites, or that's still coming? That will happen
No.
when you do it.
No, yes. The goal is me doing that for May.
Great, thank you. Okay, perfect. And we're hoping then that we won't get a partial June this time. It will just be the full month of May.
That should be the first month of May. Yeah. I need to double check, but in theory, that's the step 2. From
Okay.
plugs to SQL database.
Because I know that we were perplexed by getting half a month in the initial May report, and if we could avoid the drop on the last point on the graph, it helps people's comprehension that they don't have. But it's also fine if we have to continue doing that for a while.
I wasn't sure that it was due to the data given by Andrew. Because the data he exported on the CSV on the repo that anyone can check stopped at the end of May. My guess is that the stats.jenkins.io website static generation that does this.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. So
I think it's because the date time when the site is generated say, okay, I should have data. Let's build from up to that today.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
PG to GitHub repo and then regenerate. Because also we check the poll that I think that's the new Jira plugin maintainer that complained about. But when we checked twice with a few days between, every data that they required was available. They have been available since Andrew exports, but it looks like it took some time to be on the website. I generated the website with the new data once, but it looks like there is something on the stats Jenkins.io website that I don't understand that delay the availability of the data. But that website for me is, if I reload the page, I lose what I see on my screen. So for me, that is insane. That's absolutely insanity. So I don't understand how any of this work. I used to, I'm a whole guy with HTTP requests and stuff and HTML pages. And yeah, JavaScript is for moving things.
Just so we're clear, Damien's the one who said it, not me.
Yeah.
Dynamic web pages are not his thing. We got it. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not AI done.
No, that's it, but it's the same kind of dark stuff. I agree. It's surprising that when you refresh the page, if you've got the JVM graph on the page, you refresh and it's gone. You've got to navigate there again. Yeah, that's
which means you cannot share the page or the diagram to someone else and stuff.
Right.
But yeah. So the meaning is I don't understand. I haven't said it good or bad. I don't understand it. I don't have the skills to fix that. So if anyone is interested or annoyed enough by this, please have a look at the stats Jenkins.io repository.
Right.
But on the stats part, yeah, we don't see hole in the data. We don't see problem with the date and time. The command line, the Golang command line says when you run me, I'm gonna by default run only the past month.
So and it's always choosing just full months then. Good.
Exactly.
That's great. Perfect.
But you
Thank
can specify explicitly, and that's what we will do in any case. So it will be explicit. You can specify year and month.
Great. Thank you. I have to drop off, so I'll let you continue.
No problem. Almost there. Jira is not going to be updated until summer. They are rebuilding the machine because yeah, you need a new operating system and stuff. Nothing for us to run here. And on the support part, we have 3 things in progress. Crowd is not the Jenkins Infra team, so we don't care. Stefan, I don't know if you saw the content of this one. Zbinek
I saw
did an
typos, so I opened the issue right now.
so now we don't need typo check style anymore.
Cool.
Zbinek was able to fix all the website generation, so typos only can be used. It has a flag that export things on a new format named Sarif, Sarif, which was the purpose of typos check style. It was converting the export of typo from one to the other. A bit like BAT. BAT generated TAP, which is Perl output. And Jenkins uses JUnit format, which is XML. So we used to have conversion, but now BATs can directly use JUnit. That's the same here.
Okay.
Which means in order to drop Web Builder, you only need one thing on Packer image, typos. Once typos is installed, we're done.
So just need to check if typos exist on ARM64.
It does. You
I
implemented
did
it
that,
1 or
no?
2
Yeah,
weeks. Yes.
I did that.
So yes,
I'm
now we
old.
have everything.
Cool.
That is required now on all in one. Typo check style can be forgotten. Thanks at Spinek. And finally, JDK 25 integration, Stefan. So we have all in one with JDK 25 plus OneSys is available on ci.geo. And next step are tools, right?
Yes.
Tools and Jenkins Infra doc. Good. Any question on the work in progress? Okay, now on the issues. To triage, Javadoc Jenkins IO corrupted. I propose we delay this one because there are no emergency after checking with gems. There are no corruption in fact. It was a caching issue on his web browser, and we have a 404 on Javadoc. My guess is that it should be moved to Javadoc repository.
So it's not GDK 21. 20. Yeah,
Yes,
what?
to Javadoc. Might be not. But I mean, I don't even know how Javadoc export works. But there are nothing critical that require our attention, and no profits there since GDK 21 that could be unrelated. CI Jenkins IO Windows build, we need to work on this. That start to be 2 weeks of failure, and yeah, we need to understand what is going on. I'm gonna try to reproduce the issue on my Windows machine on my side. We have Infra CI move Packer workload. That one stays in backlog. Artifactory not caching Google's Maven repository. I told privately Bruno that he needs to check with the gensec. We need to have a list of the dependency you want to add on the plugin. We won't add something like out of the wild. It requires analysis, or the answer is no. Of course, he can add the dependency on his own POM Maven XML. So backlog for these two. Census to migrate, trusted ephemeral, cert ephemeral, all of these require stays on the backlog. Chinese website, I don't see anything else new to add, So everything goes to the backlog. Unless someone objects. Nope, okay. So that's all for me. We move all the current issue to the new milestone. We add 2 new ones, and that should be okay. Do you have something else to add, folks?
Nope.
No, so I can release you then.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Have
the
a good
walk.
day.
Take care. Bye bye.